So whether you have good experience or bad experience, the soul gains the experience. So this inner progress chart is a really important thing to know, but you can't make sense of it if you haven't got the transits in place. You can sort of see it, but you don't see how it's anchored in the world. So sometimes these directions are the same. Sometimes, like, well, Saturn will always take 30 years to go around, but my sun's going low. If someone had the sun in the 8th house and it built up towards it, their whole life it would be moving up towards the midheaven. And when Saturn would hit the midheaven, the progressed sun and Saturn would be moving in the same direction up to the midheaven. They would accomplish great things. For me, it was always pushing me to write more, to learn more, to try and express more, to teach. Like, it was, the teaching allowed me to do my research, and by going over teaching, each time I teach a class, I'm redoing my life and my chart. I'm getting tremendous insights and revelations about my own purpose in life every time I go over through these classes, because I have to work my chart and rethink it. And it's certainly gone through quantum jumps of a comprehension, looking at 73 and looking back. And when I looked at it when I was 50 or 30, different comprehensions. But this is the way of moving this. Don't make it a complicated thing. You just try and look at this. So to try and see, sometimes they pattern and they anchor, the new moons and full moons will anchor it right away. When Saturn came up in 71 to hit my midheaven, Saturn was conjunct my midheaven. I'm the astrologer. I'm set up. And I get married. But Saturn's opposing my Venus. I had the career, but I didn't have I better anchor the marriage. It was a mistake, but anyways, Mercury was going retrograde. But I just decided I'm there. I'm doing this anyways. Like the career, if I have the career, I can have a relationship and solve the conflicts that I had before going in. But I still wasn't that functionally capable. I was driven by my vision, not by. If I had a problem in my marriage, I would pull into myself. I wouldn't go talk to the wife about it. That's not a smart thing for a marriage. It's not something you would wish for one of your kids. So, seeing the undertow of my stuff, of how I was living at the time, and that I was lost in a vision, so it was pumped in that, and it didn't matter. The outside stuff was just stupid stuff. Now I see it more, the costs, I see it more balanced. But 71, it hit the midheaven, the sun's still Scorpio. By 78, it hits the ascendant. By 78, it's still, sun's still down in the 3rd house, coming towards the IC. So it's still going lower and deeper in my chart. My outer world's caving in again. I'm having to start over my own identity, 78. And it's not till 84, it gets to the IC. 84, my progressed sun goes into Scorpio. 85, it's on my IC. So you see, as soon as it changes sign, it starts from my motivation. And then for 15 years, the Saturn builds up. It's trying to extend that motivation out to accomplish something with it. Okay, so that was 84, 85. That was marriage number 2. It built up, that didn't last that long, and marriage number 3 came along, and by the time it came up to that, it fell off about the same time as when it came around again to Saturn hitting the descendant and coming to the opposition. Again, I had my last relationship. It was, well, I had 2. One was a horrendous relationship. It was really wrong associations, and I had a short relationship that was very nice that fixed some of my scar, but that changed my attitude. And then actually in 98, I went back and I went inside on this, I went back into this silence room again in India. As this went up, I've had to recharge. I didn't fit in, I wasn't feeling it, and I just got pulled, and I went back to India. And I only spent a week there, but that brought all the old things back and recharged me and pumped me up. And then I was still working with astrology, and I had a big center, and things built up, but I couldn't carry it a lot much. I had the ideas, I had the big library, I had everything, but I didn't have the money to really, I didn't have a property, so it was always costly to keep these things going. So eventually the library and the school fell down, and so by the time 2000, Saturn came down to the ascendant and it's falling apart, or I overextended outwardly. Not really, it was a great environment for me to be in. That's how I felt, living in a library and doing my work I lived in my work. So, and then there wasn't relationships anymore. I've been celibate since then, but as it hit the ascendant, that's when I started the RASA scholarship, because making the school and trying to sell it was only going so far, and again, so much. I thought, well, I'm going to try to scholarship, something that may connect me to people around the world, and I might, and other people that wouldn't be students otherwise can find it, but because it didn't make sense that if I just tried to sell, I'm going to sell some, I might sell 100 more classes in my lifetime. I said, no, that's crazy. All this work for that. And I said, no. So I started the scholarship program. Now we're 8 years into it, and over 1,000 people have scholarships and are studying with the classes in more than 80 countries. So it's an invisible thing. They're just getting classes, they're working through it on their own, but it's my teaching, my writing, it's where my energy was. So now, as I see it more clearly, but it takes just a little bit of work. You're trying to see the angles, and whenever it's on angle, where's the sun? So like for 30 years, my sun's going to be in Scorpio. It switched into Sag, and by the time you got to Sag in 84, that was just at the IC. It was New Motivations. And then 94, it had gone into Sag, and it's going through Sag in the 4th house. In 2001 on the midheaven, still in Sag, but 1999 was a full moon, and there was an eclipse. So there's lots of ways to work these things. So we can go into these things deeper. I'm not doing it that much more with my chart. I'm really trying to get you to be able to be in a moment. And here's the moment I'm doing the chart. See the transits up to that moment, which is going to be the moment we're doing the session for each of the rest of the students. But this is one where there's a moment where my reality was totally one way and it changed across us, but in ways that were kind of bizarre. It just happened, but you could see the texture. What would you say as an astrologer? Like, I didn't have the money to even go see one. I wasn't even into astrology then. But the need for finding a meaning or a purpose in my life came through this frustration, not a disassociation, and trying to understand it. And at the end of that, a vision came in about in astrology and how everybody has some purpose in their life, even if they're feeling really insignificant. And until you get in touch with that, how can you be with anyone anyways? Just being with someone is the stupid labor in me. But that was an issue. But really, my strength was more in having been alone. It's not something I wanted to do. So by the time I came out of the room being alone, I didn't want to be alone. 3 marriages later, then I wanted to be alone a little bit more. But these cycles go around, the 30-year cycles around your chart. Sometimes you just hit a pattern and something's exactly there. For me, it's the motivation point in the change of sign. 2014 was the next one when Saturn hit my IC, and 2014 it was when the progressed sun went into Capricorn. Okay, it was just still my 4th, but it didn't pass, but it's still. So then I got to go through the whole Saturn thing as it's going through Capricorn. So I had a Scorpio take, a Sag take, and a Capricorn take on my cycle starting from the IC. Someone may have that cycle starting from the ascendant or from the descendant or somewhere in between, but you want to get a sense of that. And sometimes you'll see the pattern. Sometimes the new moons and full moons will line. Mine came pretty close, but I certainly could relate to the times. But it's just getting it organized so these two are connected, that you can get the connection between the two. That this is understanding someone. When you go and talk to someone, they're not going to need to know all of these things. They need to know things specific to where they are, but you need to know them so you can properly advise them according to their Saturn, with consideration for where the progressed sun is evolving. Okay, let's see what else we got. I think that's about it. So I just put it down as the 2 charts, but when you have a screen, you can put the 2 things up beside each other. And then, so once you have the Saturn taken, you see the Saturn going into the difficult and going through, then you bring in the 8-year things and you see the extra embellishments. Like in music, you have a set pattern, a set rhythm going on. And then you add the, so you might have one, ba, 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 and so on. As we going, ba, 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 and you have other things embellishing it coming in. That's the other aspects coming in. Something might come in on top of it, and you're getting different. It's like music going on. It is music, the music of life. We're dancing to the vibrations, and when we do it right, we're in touch with our chart. We're alive. When we get out of touch with it, we get out of time. It causes a certain amount of dis-ease or discomfort, and then we try to align again. So being in touch with these phases allows you to help someone align. You're just like aligning the car, aligning the body, aligning the nature. But it's not just about body, because if your spirit's not happy, it can make you fail outwardly. If your outer circumstances aren't happy, it'll cave in until you find your spirit anyways. This struggle is going on. It's not like, presume you're going to know it with anybody. You're going to wonder, I don't know if I can figure it. Where's this person going? What's happening? And you're wondering about when someone has a problem and they're coming to you as an astrologer for a problem. This dialogue between these two levels is a very rich one to apply these two levels and how they work to that problem and towards a projection based on the potentials in the natal chart, which is how the person sees themselves. This is how they're growing and what they're doing, what's moving around inside and outside in their life from what they're doing. So so like all of this came out, that aloneness, the 2 years alone, so then getting married, then it's falling apart, then my son being born, then being separated from him with Uranus hitting the moon. And it wasn't until Uranus hit the sun that I had started a national group. I did some predictions about election, and I got national coverage, and it just came out perfectly. And from then on, it was started. My astrological career started with this big, huge jump. I couldn't have bought publicity like that, and that set it up. And my personal life had never been really all that together. I thought it was fine. I'm just going along with it, but really, it really wasn't that. I wasn't really that together on that. That wasn't my strong. That was my weak side. If my granddaughter met someone like me, or like I was back then, I'd be trying to tell her to go somewhere else. So like I say, you see it differently as you get older. But okay, so next week we're going to do the example number 2, the same ones we did for the transits, for the other things. We've got all the material. We come in. I'm not going to be explaining all the things you have to get. I'm just going to be using the stuff we have, and we're going to go through and interpret each one. And each time we're going to do one of your charts, and we're going to go through it and work through all these charts. So the same as we've been doing. So that's where we're on to our next level. It's a lot of information. It's simple. Once you get used to, if you try and do it all together without doing this first, without having taken a few moments to work with the natal chart, without a few moments to figure out the transit, get the transits anchored around the natal chart, then add the progression, then see the progressions and see the undercurrent going on within it, then you get the texture to start understand deeper complexes and implications, and you really get not just a linear interpretation. Oh, Saturn's in your midheaven, you just got to do that. It's not always that simple. The things you're going to do the best is if Saturn's on your midheaven and you're reinforcing your progressed sun. That's a really powerful combination. Okay, that's it for now. Thank you. And I'll talk to you next week. Okay, good night.